There is a fantastic idea from psychology called priming. And when you use this technique from psychology, when you learn how to prime people's brains, you can put them in the ideal mindset before you make your suggestion. And when you put them in the right mindset before you make the suggestion, they will be much more likely to take the action you'd like them to take. This is kind of what salespeople try to do when they pitch their product, or when seducers try to do, where they give the other person reasons why they want them to do what they want them to do. But this is kind of backwards because of something called mind map mismatch. We all have a map of the world in our head, and we make the assumption that everybody else's map of the world is similar to our map of the world. But when you prime somebody's brain, you bypass this normally assumed dynamic, and you simply ask questions. And by asking questions, you can put somebody else in the right mindset. So it's much more likely that they will make a decision that's congruent with that mindset. It's very, very easy. One way is we all like to believe positive traits about ourselves. In one study, they asked people, "Are you an adventurous person?" Nearly everybody said yes. Then they asked for an email address. Simply by priming their brain with that question, they went from a 30% success rate to a 70% success rate. Just by asking people cold for their emails, they only got 30%. But when they primed their brain beforehand by asking a question, and they said, "Are you an adventurous person?" They said, "Yes." "Can I have your email?" 70% success rate. So simply by asking a simple question and priming their brain and putting their brain in the proper mindset and then asking your ask or asking your suggestion, you will significantly increase how many people will do what you want. Even if you don't want people to do what you want, if you just want to have a pleasant conversation and be perceived as an incredibly charismatic person, priming people's brain will put them in a good mood. This is what people try to do anyway when we have conversations. We try to put the other person in a good mood. But most people try to put the other person in a good mood by telling them things about yourself. But when you prime their brain, when you ask questions about who they are, when you validate who they like to believe they are, they will not only feel fantastic, but they will associate those fantastic feelings with you. Now, here's a specific way to do that by eliciting feelings of strong intuition. Everybody has a sense of intuition. Everybody has experiences of being able to intuit what is going to happen, to be able to rise above temporarily the chaos and read the room like a ninja and predict what's going to happen. This predictive power is a function of our subconscious, because our subconscious, your subconscious, is far more powerful than your conscious mind. And so when we kind of relax our mind a little bit due to whatever factors that are happening in the environment, and we suddenly have this burst of intuition, when you suddenly have a burst of intuition, you read the room with clarity and you understand what's happening, and then you can kind of predict what is going to happen. This predictive power is a calculative effort of your subconscious, but you understand the room and you understand what's going to happen, and for just a little bit of time, you rise above the chaos and you have a strong burst of clarity, which makes you feel extremely confident for a lot of reasons. One reason is we are all programmed from ancient evolution to do anything we can to rise up the hierarchy. And when you have that strong burst of intuition, when you feel a strong sense of intuition, when you can predict what's going to happen, that makes you feel like you're on top of the hierarchy, if only for a brief moment. And this is a wonderful feeling, a very feeling that gives you a lot of agency and confidence. The problem is very few people talk about this. Very few people talk about their experiences of having strong intuition. So it's not something that we feel comfortable talking about. It's not something that we feel comfortable that other people know about us. So we have this strong sense of intuition. You have a lot of strong memories of intuition, but at the same time, it's something that you don't recognize as being validated by other people. So when you elicit somebody's strong sense of intuition, when you elicit their memories of having strong intuition, not only will they recreate that feeling, recreate that higher status feeling, that will recreate that rise above the chaos feeling and predict the future, they will feel validated by you, which will make them feel fantastic because of you. And that will create a deep subconscious connection between them and you. So how specifically do you elicit memories of intuition? How specifically do you prime their brain so they're feeling those intuitive feelings, those confident, agency-driven, intuitive feelings that make them feel like their comfort zone has temporarily dissolved? Because when you can get someone's brain in that state of mind where they feel like their comfort zone has been temporarily obliterated, they are in the perfect mood to make whatever decision you want them to make, to buy your product, to give you their phone number, to go home with you. So how specifically do you do this? Here's a very, very simple technique, a very simple conversational technique. And you can use this conversational technique on pretty much any positive personality trait you'd like them to assume that they have and recall in their memory. So you'd go like this. You say something like this. You talk to somebody, and let's say you've just met them and it's in a social situation. You've been talking to them for a couple of minutes. Then you say something like this. I just got this idea about you. I don't know what it is, but we've only been talking for a few minutes. I don't know anything about you, but just based on the way you communicate, it seems like you are a very intuitive person. Am I imagining things, or is there some truth to this? So the structure is very simple. I don't really know you that well. We've only been talking for a few minutes, but based on how you communicate, it seems like you are a very intuitive person. Am I imagining things, or is there some truth to this? And then watch their face. They don't have to give you an answer. They don't have to say anything. But everybody will acknowledge that, yes, I'm an intuitive person. They won't necessarily say that out loud, but you will get a positive confirmation from their facial expressions. And they will feel validated. They will feel like you see something about them that nobody else sees about them. And when you see something about them that nobody else sees about them, they will see you as someone that is different from everybody else in a much better way. But that's just the beginning. After you ask them if they're an intuitive person and they give you that facial expression recognition, oh yeah, you say something like this. Well, that's interesting. I have a question if you don't mind. When you think about the last few times that you have a stunning insight of intuitive powers, when you think of the last few times when you were able to predict things that nobody else was able to predict, when you imagine the last few times when you knew what was going to happen before it happened, do you share that with other people, or do you keep it to yourself? And so first, you presuppose that they have plenty of experiences in their past of being intuitive. And you can phrase that any way you like. When you think of the last few times, you were very intuitive. When you think of the last few times, you could predict things before anybody else could. When you think of the last few times, you had a stunning sense of clarity about what was going to happen. Do you, this or that, either way, it doesn't really matter what these questions are. Do you keep it to yourself, or do you share it with other people? And the idea is to get their mind to first recall those feelings of being intuitive without necessarily needing to remember the specific instances, but then focus on the question of what was going on around the periphery of these memories. And as soon as they start to contemplate which of these is a more likely answer, they will have accepted that they have a lot of intuitive memories in their past, and they will have recreated those feelings of being intuitive, which means they will have recreated those feelings of rising status, those feelings of clarity, those feelings of busting out of their comfort zone, those feelings of I can do anything, I suddenly understand the world in ways that no one else can possibly understand, and that will make them feel absolutely fantastic. That will make them feel fantastic, and then just talk about how they deal with their intuition, and then just let the conversation roll on the way it would roll on. And then, a couple minutes later, drop in your ass. You seem like an interesting person. I think we should see each other again. Why don't we exchange phone numbers? You seem like an interesting person to talk to. I don't meet a lot of people like you. I definitely want to get your phone number. And build up their ego. Build up their ego by assuming that they have intuition. And this is a fantastic tool, a fantastic strategy, because everybody has intuition. Everybody has senses of clarity and insight, but it's something we don't talk about. So this simple technique, this simple pattern, if you will do a lot of things. One, they will feel validated for having some special skill that they rarely talk about. And two, they will feel a strong sense, if only temporary, of being able to bust out of their comfort zone. They will feel like they can do anything. They will feel like they can accomplish anything. This will prime their brain in a very, very powerful way. And when you prime their brain with memories of intuitive powers and blast open their comfort zone, they will be willing to do anything, and they will associate those willing to do anything feelings with you. This is a very simple technique. Try it out. See how wonderfully well it works. Try it on your friends to practice, but definitely try this on strangers. You can use this in social situations. You can use this during a sales conversation. If you're a salesperson and you want to make a lot more money in sales, if you want to close a lot more customers, forget about outside-in techniques. Use the priming technique. Ask questions to put their brain in the best possible mindset to make a decision. And the intuition priming technique is the best possible way to do that. That will put them in the best possible mood, and you'll sell a lot more products in a lot less time and make a lot more commissions. If you'd like to learn more about how you can use your language to become incredibly persuasive, if you'd like to learn more about how to use your questions to prime people's brains, to put them in a fantastic decision-making mindsets, if you'd like to use your language to make a lot more money in sales, to become much more successful socially, check out the links below. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you next time.